Utah woman who wrote the book on grief gets life without parole for killing husband.
Accordingly, Ms. Richins, based on your conviction on count 1, first-degree felony aggravated murder, the court hereby sentences you to life without parole.
Kouri's selfishness and cruelty did not end with Eric's murder. In the time after Eric's death, Kouri has done nothing but isolate, manipulate, deceive, and do harm to those boys. Almost immediately after Eric died, she cut them off completely from our family.
Damn right, life without parole. She's young enough to remarry, and we don't need another book. We don't need her writing any more children about how to deal with grief, especially when she's the one out here dealing out all the grief. We don't need a follow-up to that story. The book was centered around the loss of a father. It couldn't have been more on the nose. Some might even say it was tone-deaf, calculated, or even performative. A Utah mother who published a children's book about grief after the death of her husband and was later found guilty of killing him. That's a Lifetime movie and a half, has been sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. If you're a true crime nut, or if you're just interested in hearing a weird story, this was the one to be following for a few years now. Kouri Richins was convicted in March of aggravated murder for lacing her husband's cocktail with 5 times the legal dose of fentanyl at their home near Park City in 2022. A person convicted of those things is simply too dangerous to ever be free. I agree, Judge Richard Mrazek said when handing down the sentence on the day her late husband Eric Richins would have turned 44.
Kouri used the boys as bargaining chips with my dad. She repeatedly threatened not to let him see his grandsons unless he could convince me, as Eric's trustee of his trust, to capitulate to her legal demands and give her all the trust assets. While isolating the boys, Kouri provided them with false and harmful information about me and my family.
True Crime 101, when a spouse dies, especially in a fentanyl overdose, when she said herself that he had no history of drug use, then of course she was going to be suspect numero uno. Investigators start doing some digging into finances, which is always a top motivator to murder your spouse. And there you have it. People say money isn't everything in a relationship, but what they will ignore is that money trouble can break up the staunchest of relationships, especially when one spouse is mostly the cause of the money trouble. Prosecutors said Richins, a 35-year-old real estate agent with a house flipping business, was millions in debt, 1.8 to 2 million if I'm not mistaken, and planning a future with another man. If you're that other man and a woman tells you she's going to get rid of her husband, she's going to leave her husband to be with you, then you raise anchor and you set sail as quickly as possible, because it's only a matter of time before that fentanyl sandwich makes its way to your plate. She had opened numerous life insurance policies on Eric Richins without his knowledge and falsely believed she would inherit his estate worth more than $4 million after he died. Falsely being the key word. Jurors in Park City also found Richins guilty of 4 other felonies, including attempted murder for trying to poison her husband weeks earlier on Valentine's Day with a fentanyl lace sandwich. Eric Richins' sister, Amy Richins, said after the verdict that she was just very happy that we got justice for my brother. Now, if you look at the video, it's from the New York Post that has a great shot of Amy Richins giving the victim impact statement, and you can see in the background Kouri Richins, which has a face that I can only describe it as unbothered, like she's more concerned about winning than it was about the gravity of what happened and what's actually happening, and could now focus solely on supporting his sons, who were ages 9, 7, and 5 when their father died. Jurors in Park City also found Richins guilty of 4 other felonies, including attempted murder for trying to poison her husband weeks earlier on Valentine's Day with a fentanyl lace sandwich. Nasty work. Richins has been adamant in maintaining she is innocent. Well, she's not going to come clean, is she? Saying on Wednesday that her verdict was an absolute lie.
I can beat myself up all day about how I could have been a better person or made better personal choices. And I can understand and accept you boys being upset about those things. But murder? No, absolutely not. I will not accept that. and I will not be blamed for something I did not do. I will appeal and fight these charges.
She definitely wrote the book on grief, because by the time she got done, there wasn't a dry eye in the house. The death dealer giving your husband a fentanyl sandwich on Valentine's Day is nasty work. Giving your husband a fentanyl sandwich on any day is nasty work. If there was really another man in the picture, like prosecution alluded to, then he would have to be out of his mind to entertain her, to mess with her, without thinking the same could happen to him. Throughout the trial, prosecutors portrayed the mother of three as a money-hungry killer. They showed the jury text messages between Richins and her lover. Got those receipts, baby, hot off the press, in which she fantasized about leaving her husband and gaining millions in a divorce. Prosecutors also displayed the internet search history from Richins' phone, which included queries about the lethal dose of fentanyl, luxury prisons, and how poisoning is marked on a death certificate. What defense can fight against that? Johnny Cochran could come back and wouldn't stand a chance against that. Of course, I love to hear your thoughts on this. I love to hear your opinions on this. The delusions. She ran the life she had into the ground and thought it would be easier to just erase everything and start over. It doesn't work like that. The husband was well aware of her mounting debt, being that he shared a stake in some of her business ventures. And duh, you're married. How wouldn't he notice your millions in debt? Then he wisely took measures with his estate planning before his untimely passing. What would make her think that she would get a nickel of anything instead of him making sure everything went to his children?